New Speaking Questions, Part 2, September to December 2021, IELTS Speaking Test.
The questions for Part 2 and 3 are organized under the 5 themes of people, places, things, activities, experiences. I have separate videos on how to deal with these 5 themes, including vocabulary and ways of answering these types of questions. People. Describe a person who solved a problem in a smart way. You should say who this person is, what the problem was, how he or she solved it, and explain why you think he or she did it in a smart way. Part 3. Do you think children are born smart or do they learn to become smart? What are some ways to know whether someone is smart? Why are some people well-rounded and others only good at one thing? Why does modern society need talents of all kinds? Describe a creative person whose work you admire. You should say who he or she is, how you knew him or her, what creative things he or she has done, and explain why you think he or she is creative. Part 3. Do you think you are a creative person? Is it good for children to learn arts? What kinds of jobs require people to be creative? Do you think leaders need to have creative ability? Describe a business person you admire. You should say who this person is, how you know about this person, what kind of business this person does, and explain why you admire this person. Part 3. What types of businesses are most successful in your country? What kinds of qualities do people need to run their own business? What do you think are the key factors that contribute to the success of a business? Do you think most people would like to run their own business? Describe a foreign person who you think is interesting. You should say who the person is, how you know him or her, what kinds of person he or she is, and explain why you think he or she is interesting. Part 3. Is having foreign friends a good way to know about other countries? Is it important to know the culture and language of a country before going there? What are the advantages of working in international companies? What abilities do people need to have when working in an international company? Describe a famous athlete you know. You should say who he or she is, how you know about him or her, what he or she has achieved, and explain why he or she is famous. Part 3. What kinds of athletes are famous in your country? What kinds of sports do people in your country like? What characteristics do you think an athlete should have? Why are there so few top athletes? Describe a time you were friendly to someone you did not like. You should say when and where it happened, who he or she was, why you did not like this person, and explain why you were friendly to him or her on that occasion. Part 3. What kinds of people are usually friendly? Why are people sometimes friendly to a person they don't like? What are the differences between being friendly and being polite? What do you think of the people who are always straightforward? Describe the teacher who impressed you most at primary school. You should say who he or she is, how you knew him or her, why he or she impressed you the most, and explain how you feel about him or her. Part 3. What types of teachers do most students like? Is it common to keep in touch with teachers in your country? Do you think most people miss their childhood? What are some reasons why children might be happier than adults? Places. Describe a place you visited on vacation. You should say where it is, when you went there, what you did there, and explain why you went there. Part 3. What are some popular attractions that people like to visit in your country? Do old people and young people choose different places to go on vacation? What should people think about when making travel plans? How do people find out about new places to visit? Describe a cafe you like to visit. You should say where it is, what kinds of food and drinks it serves, what does it look like, and explain why you like to go there. Part 3. What kind of people like to go to cafes? Why do many young people like studying in a cafe instead of at home? Do old people like to drink coffee? Do most people in your country like to drink coffee? Things. Describe an exciting book that you enjoyed. You should say when you read it, what kind of book it is, what it is about, and explain why you think it is exciting. Part 3. What kind of books are popular in your country? Do you think most people prefer books or movies? Do boys and girls like the same kinds of books? Are books becoming more or less popular in your country? Describe an item that you spent more than you expected on. You should say what it is, how much you spent on it, why you bought it, and explain why you think you spent more than expected. Part 3. What items do young people spend most of their money on? Do young people have more money to spend than in the past? Do people in your country often buy things they don't need? Do you think it is important to save money? Activities. Describe a habit your friend has that you want to develop. You should say who your friend is, what habit he or she has, when you noticed this habit, and explain why you want to develop this habit. Part 3. What habits should children have? What should parents do to teach their children good habits? What influences do children with bad habits have on other children? Why do some habits change when people get older? Describe a bicycle or car trip you would like to go on. You should say who you would like to go with, where you would like to go, when you would like to go, and explain why you would like to go by bicycle or car. Part 3. Do people in your country prefer to travel by bike or car? Is riding bicycles becoming more popular or less popular? Do you think people need to drive cars less to protect the environment? How are the transportation systems in urban areas and rural areas different? Describe a skill that was difficult for you to learn. You should say when you learned it, why you learned it, how you learned it, and explain how you felt when you learned it. Part 3. What skills do students need to master? Is it hard for students to learn new skills? Is it hard for old people to learn new skills? Is a good teacher very important for students' learning experience? Why? Describe an activity you did that wasted a lot of time. You should say what you did, when you did it, why you did it, and explain why you think it wasted a lot of time. Part 3. What activities do people do in your country that take a lot of time? What are some ways to decrease the amount of time of doing something? What kinds of things make people feel pressured? Why do some people refuse to abide by rules? Experiences. Describe a time when you got up early. You should say when it was, what you did, why you got up early, and explain how you felt about it. Part 3. Why do people get up early? What kinds of occasions need people to arrive early? Why do some people like to stay up late? What are some reasons why people have trouble sleeping? Describe a difficult decision that you had to make. You should say what the decision was, when you made your decision, how long it took to make the decision, and explain why it was difficult to make. Part 3. What are some of the major decisions that young people have to make? Is it easier to make a decision by yourself or after a group discussion? Why are many young people unwilling to follow their parents' advice? What are some jobs that involve giving advice to others? Describe a time when you waited for something special. You should say what you waited for, where you waited, why it was special, and explain how you felt while you were waiting. Part 3. On what occasions do people usually need to wait? Who behaves better when waiting, children or adults? Compared to the past, are people less patient now? What can people do to avoid being bored while waiting? Describe a time you received good service. You should say what the service was, when you received it, who you were with, and how you felt about it. Part 3. How important is good customer service in your country? What types of people provide good customer service? What kind of jobs involve providing service to others? Should companies react quickly when customers have difficulties?
Now, if you've got any questions, please put them in the comments below, and do me a favor, if you take a test, let me know at least some of the questions that you got asked in the comments below. This would help me greatly, because what I'm going to be doing now is preparing for my next videos, which are going to be the actual new questions. As these new questions emerge, I'm going to be sharing them with you. I'm going to be making videos of the new questions. I'm going to be updating my website. Make sure you subscribe to me, and make sure that you click on the alerts button so that you will get notifications of my new videos, so that as these new questions emerge, you get updated about this. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please like it so that that will help this video to rank better and enable people such as yourself to see this video. Please subscribe to me if you'd like to get alerts of my upcoming videos as I produce them and as I upload them. So prepare for the unexpected. Good luck in 2021.